The tall glass walls of Kelechi Industries shone under the morning sun, but inside, everyone was afraid. Workers walked quickly, heads down, hoping not to be seen. "Oga is coming oh," the receptionist said. In an instant, everything changed. People rushed to their desks, pretending to be busy. Others whispered nervously. Footsteps echoed down the hall. Everyone knew what was coming. Mr. Kelechi was the only son of Mazi Ezenaya, a self-made billionaire who had built an empire from nothing. Mazi Ezenaya was a man of discipline and resilience, but despite his wealth, he was humble and kind. However, Kelechi's mother, a woman obsessed with status and luxury, ensured that her son grew up shielded from struggle. From childhood, Kelechi was pampered and spoiled, never had to lift a finger. Servants catered to his every whim, and his parents, especially his mother, never denied him anything. While his father tried to instill discipline, his mother's indulgence overshadowed all efforts. When Mazi Ezenaya passed away, leaving behind his vast fortune, Kelechi inherited not just the wealth, but an entitled, ruthless mindset. With no experience of hardship, he believed himself superior to everyone around him. He treated his staff like disposable tools, backing orders and humiliating those who failed to meet his impossible standards. Arrogant, rude, and completely devoid of empathy, he viewed kindness as weakness and power as the ultimate thing that mattered. Employees feared him, knowing that defying him meant instant dismissal. Kelechi wielded his wealth like a weapon, crushing anyone who dared to challenge him. That day, Mr. Kelechi stormed into his office building like a raging storm. "Fools, all of you!" he barked at his staff. "Does anyone in this company have a functioning brain at all? Why must I do everything for you stupid people?" His voice echoed across the floor, making even the security guards shake. He was ruthless, wicked and arrogant, and everyone knew better than to annoy him, especially in the mornings. Kelechi had built a reputation of fear, one that no one dared to challenge. Having grown up in extreme privilege, he had never known struggle, never faced true hardship. He was raised to believe that money equaled power and that kindness was a weakness for fools. Now, as the sole heir to his father's empire, Kelechi wielded his authority like a sword, cutting down anyone who displeased him without a second thought. Employees lived in fear of his unpredictable rage, aware that even the smallest mistake could mean their end. As Kelechi made his way towards his office, his sharp eyes landed on a new cleaner, an elderly woman slowly pushing the mopping bucket. Her frail hands trembled as she mopped the floor, clearly trying to stay out of his way. Unfortunately, fate had other plans. In the frantic rush of employees trying to escape his wrath, someone bumped into the old woman. The mop bucket slipped from her grasp, its soapy contents spilling across the marble floor and onto Kelechi. There was silence. For a long second, no one moved. Then Kelechi's gaze dropped to his expensive Italian shoes, now stained with dirty water. His face darkened. His lips curled in disgust. "You useless old woman," he bellowed, and before anyone could stop him, he slapped her. The sound echoed through the hall as his palm struck her wrinkled cheek. The woman stumbled, gasping in shock. Employees froze in horror. No one dared to breathe. Kelechi's chest heaved with fury. "Do you know how much these trousers cost? Eh? Do you think I employ beggars to come here and ruin my day?" The woman, trembling, fell to her knees. "Sir, please, I didn't mean to. It was a mistake." Kelechi's eyes blazed. "A mistake? You should never have been hired. Who hired you? You are old, slow, and incompetent. Leave this office at once." The woman pressed her palms together, her voice breaking. "Please, sir, please, have mercy. I have grandchildren to feed. This job is all I have." But mercy was a language Kelechi did not speak. "Get out!" he roared. "You are fired. Get out of my sight before I throw you out myself." Tears rolled down the woman's withered face. She struggled to her feet, clutching her mop for balance. The entire office remained deadly silent. No one dared to intervene. But just as she reached the door, she turned, and when she did, Her expression was no longer one of fear, but something far more dangerous. Her frail hands trembled, but her voice was steady, laced with a strange certainty. Kelechi, she said slowly, her eyes blazing with anger. You may have won this battle, Kelechi, but mark my words. You will reap what you have sown. Your cruelty will be your downfall. I curse you, Kelechi. I curse you. You and your lineage. You will not live to see your 40th birthday. Your life will be cut short and you will meet a bitter end. You will know no peace, no joy until you make amends. The old man's eyes seemed to bore into Kelechi's soul, her voice dripping with evil intensity. A chilling hush swept over the office. Kelechi let out a cold, cruel laugh. Foolish woman, do you think your silly words can touch me? I am Kelechi Ezenaya. Your words mean nothing. You can't curse me. Get out of my office. Security, take this woman out of here. A year passed. Kelechi was now 39 years old. His 40th birthday loomed just months away. He was still the same ruthless, powerful man, feared, respected, untouchable. He still walked into boardrooms as though he owned the world, still dictated the fate of thousands with a single word, still crushed anyone who stood in his way. Then one evening, it began. A cough. At first, it was nothing, just a small irritation in his throat. Then it deepened, harsher, persistent, and more violent. Within weeks, his chest felt tight, breathing became heavy, each breath burned. He started waking up drenched in sweat, his heart racing, yet he refused to acknowledge it. It's nothing, he muttered, dismissing the pain tightening in his chest. He drowned himself in work. He ignored the persistent discomfort until he couldn't. One morning, in the midst of a heated boardroom argument, he stood to berate an employee for a mistake. His vision blurred, the room spun, his breath caught. Then there was darkness. Kelechi woke up, his eyes fluttered open. He wasn't in his luxurious mansion nor in his office. He was in a hospital bed. The sterile smell of antiseptic filled his nostrils. Machines beeped. His limbs felt weak, heavy. As his eyes adjusted to the dim room, he saw a nurse standing beside him. She was checking the IV, adjusting the drip. Then she turned, startled to see his eyes open. Kelechi scowled. What are you looking at? His voice was hoarse, but still sharp. Are you supposed to just stand there like an idiot? Shouldn't you be doing something? The nurse hesitated. Her lips parted, unsure of how to respond. Answer me, he barked, his strength returning just enough to halt abuse. The nurse flinched but tried to remain professional. Sir, I was checking your vitals. She reached out gently to check his pulse, but he yanked his hand away. Don't touch me, she gasped, shocked by his aggression. Sir, please, I need to monitor your condition. I said don't touch me. His voice boomed, his anger rising. With a sudden burst of energy, he shoved her away. The nurse stumbled back, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. She held her breath, blinking rapidly to keep her composure. The door swung open. A doctor stepped in, an older man dressed in crisp white, carrying an air of authority. His eyes immediately went to the nurse, noticing her distress. His jaw tightened. Nurse, are you okay? He asked gently. She nodded, forcing a smile, professional smile, but the redness in her eyes betrayed her. The doctor sighed. Go and get me his test results. She turned to leave, but before stepping out, she cast one last glance at Kelechi. The door shut behind her, and there was silence. The doctor turned back to Kelechi. Mr. Kelechi, his voice was steady but upright. How are you feeling? Kelechi scoffed, forcing himself upright. I'm fine, doctor. When can I leave? The doctor didn't smile. Moments later, the nurse returned holding a brown envelope. She handed it to the doctor, her hands trembling slightly. Then, without another word, she left. The doctor unfolded the results slowly. His eyes scanned the paper. Then, his face changed. His fingers tightened around the report. Kelechi didn't like the look on the doctor's face. He somehow felt something was wrong. Very wrong. Doctor! Kelechi's voice was sharp, commanding. What's the problem? The doctor took a deep breath, then he looked up. Mr. Kelechi, his voice was careful, steady. Your results show that you have been diagnosed with a severe and irreversible heart failure. It's called coronary artery disease. Kelechi frowned. What does that mean? The doctor swallowed. Sir, it means your heart is failing. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Kelechi felt a strange tightness in his chest. Failing? So what's the cure? He asked, his voice slower this time. The doctor's face darkened. There is no cure. The world stopped. Kelechi's mind went blank. No cure? What are you saying? This is 2025. There has to be a cure. What do you mean? The doctor sighed, rubbing his forehead. I mean, Mr. Kelechi, that this disease is fatal. And we can only manage the pain, but cannot give you any treatments for it. Unfortunately, sir, you have less than 6 months from now to live. The room spun. Kelechi's hands gripped the sheets. That's impossible, doctor. I have money. How much would it cost to find the cure? I can't, he whispered. The doctor gave him a long, sorrowful look. I'm sorry, sir. There's nothing we can do. There was panic. Kelechi's chest rose and fell rapidly. His ears rang. 6 months to live. Only 6 months. And then he remembered the curse. The old man's voice came rushing back to him, clear as day. You will not live to see your 40th birthday. Kelechi's blood ran cold. His breath came out shaky and weak. For the first time in his life, Kelechi felt fear. The days blurred into weeks and Kelechi fell into a pit of despair. The once mighty billionaire, feared by employees and admired by businessmen, was now just a shell of himself. His mansion, once alive with extravagant parties and business meetings, was now quiet, dark, and lifeless. He refused to leave his room. The curtains remained drawn, keeping the outside world hidden. He had no appetite, barely touched his food. The man who once backed others from a golden throne now sat in silence, drowning in regret. His reflection in the mirror mocked him, pale skin, sunken eyes. Was this really him? The once untouchable, all-powerful Kelechi now faced his own mortality. Then one evening, one of his few friends who still dared to visit sat beside him. Kelechi, the man spoke gently, you need to find that woman. Kelechi barely moved. His voice was a whisper. Which woman? The old woman you fired. The one that they said cost you. At first, Kelechi laughed bitterly. He had spent his life mocking superstition, believing that money ruled the world, but now all his wealth meant nothing. Ha! Could that curse be real? He grabbed onto the idea like a drowning man clutching at a floating plank. If there was even a chance, he had to take it. He had to find her. And with that, Kelechi's search began. Kelechi's black SUV rolled into city streets, but this time it was not to make business deals. It was a desperate mission for survival. He went back to his company, asking questions. Where is that woman? He demanded from his staff. That old cleaner, what's her name? Where did she live? But no one knew. Some employees even avoided his gaze, still afraid of him despite his peaceful state. I think she was a contract worker, one of the staffs whispered. Kelechi searched slums, roaming through the crowded, filthy streets looking for a familiar face. He went to markets, went to churches, bus stops, showing her old employee ID picture to strangers, but no one had seen her. Every door he knocked on led to another dead end. Days turned to weeks, weeks turned to months. Kelechi's desperation grew. His once pristine suits were now wrinkled, his hair unkempt. People no longer recognized him as the mighty billionaire, just a sick man chasing ghosts. And then one cold morning, standing in the middle of a busy market, staring at the faces of strangers, he realized something he had lost. The woman was gone, and there was nothing left to search for. The weight of hopelessness crushed him. His legs buckled. Kelechi sank to the ground in surrender. He had spent his life looking down on people, and now he had fallen lower than he ever thought possible. There was no way out. The curse was going to come true, and this time, there was nothing he could do about it. 3 months had passed. Kelechi was ready to die. His days were spent in silence, staring at the ceiling, waiting for death to claim him. His mansion, once filled with life, was now a prison where regret echoed in every empty hallway. He had accepted it. This was how it would end. Then one evening, his old friend Osita came again to visit. Osita had watched Kelechi waste away, had seen his once proud friend fall apart under the weight of the curse. But today, Osita's voice was steady. "I'm so sorry you couldn't find the woman." Kelechi turned to him, his face hollow, his eyes swollen from endless nights of crying. "I don't know what else to do," he whispered. "I have nothing left. I've accepted my fate." Osita leaned forward, studying him carefully before asking, "Since you're going to die anyway, why not do something good?" Kelechi frowned. "What do you mean?" "Give your wealth to the poor." Kelechi blinked. "Donate to orphanages, help the sick, the less privileged. Let your wealth mean something. If you must leave this world, Kelechi, let your legacy live on." That sounded like a good idea to Kelechi. For the first time, he thought beyond himself. His entire life had been about power, wealth, and control. But now, in the face of death, none of it mattered. And so, he began. Kelechi gave everything away. His mansions, his cars, businesses, lands, he donated them all. He funded orphanages, hospitals, and shelters. He built homes for the homeless, paid for surgeries, and gave church money for charity programs. It was the first time in his life he had ever given without expecting anything in return. And for the first time in his life, he felt peace. But then something strange happened. A month before his 40th birthday, Kelechi woke up one morning and realized his cough was gone, his body felt stronger, and he felt somehow alive. The weakness had vanished, his heart pounded in confusion. This wasn't possible. He rushed to the hospital, his heart racing. When the doctor saw the results, his face drained of color. The clipboard nearly fell from his hands. "Sir, you don't have any heart disease." Kelechi froze. "What?" The doctor stood still and called for more tests. They checked, then checked again. Finally, the doctor looked at him, his face filled with disbelief. "Your test results must have been swapped, Mr. Kelechi." Kelechi stared at him unblinking. What do you mean by that?" "Yes, because from what I'm seeing, you never had any heart failure." His words spun. His sickness, his death sentence was a lie? The disease that had shattered him, stolen his wealth, and reduced him to nothing was never real? He had given everything away, his house, his companies, his businesses, and now he was no longer dying. His blood ran cold. Should he feel happy or should he feel betrayed? His entire life had just changed again, and this time he didn't even know what to do. Kelechi left the hospital a broken man. His steps were slow, almost lifeless, as he wandered down the hospital corridors. The weight of reality pressed against his chest. He had lost everything. His businesses, his wealth, his power, all gone. And yet, he was alive. His body was strong, his lungs clear, his heart healthy. But at what cost? For the first time, he did not know whether to laugh or cry as he stepped outside. The city's bright lights blurred before him. A cruel joke, that's what this is. He has spent most preparing for death, giving everything away, begging for forgiveness, searching for redemption, and now, when he had nothing left to live for, life had decided to spare him. "What kind of joke is this?" he whispered, staggering forward, his hands clenching into fists. Then behind him, a voice rang out, a quiet, trembling voice. "Sir!" Kelechi turned sharply. There she stood, the nurse. The same nurse she saw the day he got his diagnosis. She hesitated, then walked towards him. Life is unpredictable, isn't it? She said softly, watching him. Kelechi frowned. What do you mean by that? She looked down for a moment as if choosing her words carefully. Then she exhaled. Sometimes we think we have control, that we can buy time, buy people, buy power, buy life itself. But fate has a way of humbling even the strongest of men, doesn't it? I hope you learnt your lesson. Kelechi stiffened. There was something strange about the way she spoke, like she knew something he didn't. The nurse looked at him and without saying anything more, she walked away. Kelechi's mind raced as he began clicking things into place. Your result was swapped. That was what the doctor said. The nurse, the same nurse, the test results, the timing of it all. He suddenly remembered how she had been that day, the way he had shouted at her, humiliated her. Kelechi's throat went dry. Did she? No, it couldn't be. His lips parted, but he didn't know what to say. She hadn't confessed. She hadn't said anything directly, but deep down, Kelechi knew the nurse was behind it all. Now, he had nothing. No power, no wealth, no legacy. Nothing to hold on to. Just a man who had lived to see the depth of his own downfall. Kelechi felt rage. But what could he do? What proof did he have? And even if he did, who would believe him? He had ruined lives, humiliated people. He had no real friends. Even the press had praised him, the billionaire who gave it all away before his death. What would they say now? The billionaire who wants his wealth back now that he's alive. A bitter laugh escaped his throat. He couldn't fight this, and deep down, he wasn't sure if he even deserved to. The world had broken him and rebuilt him into something else. Perhaps this was mercy. Perhaps it was both. But one thing was certain. Kelechi Ezenaya will never be the same again. The end. Thank you so much for watching this interesting story. Kelechi Ezenaya was a man who had everything: money, power, influence, yet he lacked the one thing that truly mattered: humanity. This story teaches us a harsh but powerful lesson. How we treat people matter a lot. Kelechi believed his wealth made him untouchable, but life humbled him in the most unexpected way. He was forced to experience the same suffering he had inflicted on others. Was it karma? Was it fate? Or was it just a twist of destiny? At the end of the day, money can buy many things, but it can never buy back lost time or undo past mistakes. And that's why we should treat people with kindness. Now, I would love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about the nurse? Do you think she went too far, swapping Kelechi's results with that of another person? And what about Kelechi? What do you think he should do right now? He's penniless, he doesn't have any business, and he has to start all over. Well, at least he will understand what it is to start from scratch. Please drop your comments. I would love to hear your thoughts on this one. What did this story teach you? Do you think Kelechi deserves his fate? Should he get a second chance? Please, let's discuss in the comment section. And if you love this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more thrilling and emotional stories like this one. Until I see you in the next story, thank you so much for watching. Bye.